Zokorak stood on the silver steps of his kingdom, overlooking the silver sea. Its beauty was magnificent and serene, yet it had many dangerous qualities that would swallow up any poor soul who went out too far in the ocean. The island of Norahknaa was the most peaceful and beautiful land to exist in the Matoran Universe. Zokorak looked out the window of his warm home, seeing his people, the Manox, working hard on the golden city, surrounded by lush plant life. The Manox wore masks, and they created the very first Kanohi in existence. It warmed his heart, and he was proud to be leader of this new organization. They would carry out their daily duties to the great spirit Mata Nui. Many challenges were up ahead, but Zokorak was determined and persistent to accomplish those tasks. The Manox were strong, armored, and powerful, with many abilities to carry out their mission. The universe was still very young, and it was their responsibility to make sure nothing would interrupt Mata Nui's mission. Yes, it was true. Zokorak and his people knew that they were inside a massive million-foot-tall protodermis being known as Mata Nui. They knew of Mata Nui's mission, and they knew what was happening outside. A huge battle known as the Cold War. The great beings had created the Zokorak species to ensure that nothing would interrupt Mata Nui's mission to save the world known as Spherus Magna. Zokorak and the Manox had done their job, and soon enough Mata Nui was sent off from the planet. Then the Shattering occurred, and even with the sudden turn of events, Zokorak had to ensure that Mata Nui's mission would not be stopped or halted. Zokorak sat down on a soft metallic throne in his dark chamber, deep in thought. The world is changing much quicker than I anticipated. Suddenly, the massive doors of his throne room opened. A lean and agile being stepped in. Zokorak knew who this visitor was. A female Manox, a companion that he's known and trusted from the very beginning. The love of his life, Hershak. She stepped into the dimly lit room slowly and quietly, with her bright blue eyes locked on target. Zokorak suddenly felt a strong force wrap around him. It felt like slippery chains. Then he heard laughter, a sound that kept him up every day. Hershak's mask of flexibility came into view of his face, laughing with glee. "What's the matter? You're not laughing." And then the strange force became undone, and he saw Hershak change back into her normal form, besides the fact that her arms were too long. She fixed that problem immediately. Hershak spoke. "Not in a laughing mood today, eh? The citizens are preparing a huge celebration for you since the city is finally finished." Zokorak sat in his chair, unmoving and silent. "Are you sick, my love?" Zokorak finally replied. "Oh, I just had a vision." Zokorak wore the Mask of Precognition, a Kanohi which he had no control over. Hershak replied, "Another one? What did you see?" Zokorak looked down at the floor, contempt in his eyes. He saw a being. An evil being with the power of shadow that did something that would change the course of this world forever. Hershak, knowing Zokorak was one of his grumpy worm days, she began to step out. Zokorak suddenly stopped her. "Maybe it's time I get out of the shadows." And with that, Hershak smiled. The two grasping hands walked out of the chamber and out the door into the celebration of more than 1,000 cries of happiness and pride. But from a distance, in the forest, two crimson eyes were watching Zokorak, and the entity gruesomely smiled and disappeared.
The end! For now!
Coming soon! Confederacy moves its history, Chapter 3. The Hand of Artaka.